So Coach Allen has talked about in the past the ambiguity for the opponent not knowing which quarterback you guys were going to throw at him. Obviously, Penn State knows it's going to be Peyton Ramsey.
Right.
Now. So how do you feel like Peyton will handle that challenge, and do you do anything yourself to try to make him less predictable or different than what they've seen on film previously?
Yeah, no, I think we're to the point in the season where they've seen enough on Peyton to kind of know. And every week we always bring different wrinkles to the table, no matter who the quarterback's going to be, and that's just part of our game planning. And so we'll continue to do that. But there certainly won't be a question on who's going to be playing. I think that's a positive for us too. And when you put yourself in Peyton's shoes and him knowing, and preparing, and he's had that a couple times, but for the most part, he's had to just be ready, in case. And so. I know he's going to do everything. He knows how to prepare. He's been in these positions before, and he's prepared in a great way, and you're ready to go. Have our offense ready to go on Saturday.
Yeah, and Tom.
Hey, every school that you've coached at, the offense in the first year has had a pretty significant jump in the total offense, and obviously that's been the case here as well. How have you been able to execute that now that we're most way through this season?
Yeah, I think. It takes a little bit, I think, every year, but I just try to get a feel of what our guys are capable of doing, what their strengths are. And, you install your concepts in spring ball and in fall camp, and you try to get them to understand, but, a lot of it's just them being confident in what we're doing. And you're going to see that the players make plays, and there's not a magic formula, but there's just things that we do that our guys believe in, and they also, I think, understand the adjustments and the answers that we have within our system that we can go to, whether it's throughout the course of the game or from week to week, depending on the team we're playing and what their style, what their defense, presents. But I think it's just, we work on fundamental things, taking care of the football and placement of the ball, when we're throwing it to where there can be yards after catch and understanding the landmarks we're trying to get to, and just the confidence, the details that we're preaching each and every day. And that falls on the staff too. The staff has been awesome with those details, and I go to bed at night knowing that, the things we talked about, we'll talk about today, are going to be coached up extremely well tomorrow in those meetings with our players. And because of the confidence or because of the success we've had, the players are just looking for, they want to be coached. They just have responded and made plays in big moments, and just continue to build on that confidence and success we've had.
Tom and Pete.
Coach, a big part of Peyton's game is to be able to take off and run now and again. But he's had some pretty massive wallops to him this year too. Now that Mike's out and he's the guy you need to rely on probably for 60 minutes, and does it affect like how often you want him running or anything like that at all?
Yeah, I think it's in the back of your mind, but some of the hits are when you're stationary back there in the pocket, throwing the football. And I know that there's been a couple. I think of the Maryland run he had where he took off and scrambled, and so. Thinking about some of the biggest hits he's had, and in the past game where he's had to make something happen or standing in the pocket. So, that's his style of play, and it's who we are. We obviously got to be careful. I think anytime where I've been, we've tried to keep the quarterback carries minimal, unless if that's truly the style of quarterback that person is, which I've had once or twice throughout the years. But you get 7 to 8 carries a game, a couple are on scrambles, or a couple zone reads or power reads, and you want the rest of the skilled players to be the guys that handle the ball. So not much changes there, but certainly we do have to be conscious of that. Limited in the number of hits he takes, for sure.
Pete and Kevin.
How much did the personnel that Indiana had already, or the potential of those guys, have to do with you taking on the OC opportunity that was given to you here? I mean, just looking at the roster, did that have a lot to do with it?
Yeah, I think number one is I came into a place where I trusted the coaches, and started with Coach Allen. leaving in the people, and it's really, as you talk to them, hearing, how close we are, and then turning on the film and seeing, okay, these guys can make some plays. There's some plays that are being made, and we're young, but we continue to stay the course like we are right now. There's potential to do some big things, and so you vet all that out, when you're going through the process. But I think a lot of it just, to me, was making sure that I was around good people. I'm around Coach Allen. I'm around a coaching staff that just has a ton of energy. Guys that enjoy being around each other, enjoy coming to work each day. And when that happens, you put everything into your job, you enjoy being there. Great things happen because it filters on down to the players. They see the camaraderie, the chemistry amongst the staff, and now they share it and have it as well.
Kevin?
Jack Tuttle, how did he handle the increased reps in practice and your comfort level with him now as he kind of elevates to the backup role?
Yeah, no, he definitely has gotten, he gets very few throughout the course of a week, as far as with the whole team, with the whole offense. I thought last week was really a good week for him. I think he really settled in more than anything, and understands where he's at now, and that he needs to be, the guy that's ready to go. But I thought last week was a very successful set of practices for him, and I thought today again, just very consistent. And that's what you want out of any player, is just the consistency and the growth being continued to be there. And I think he's got a kind of peace about him right now in his mind. Compared to where he was at earlier when it was competing for a job and all those type of things. I think there's an better understanding of the offense, because he puts just as much into it as Michael did and as Peyton does, and he's ready. He's been ready to go throughout all of this as well.
Zach and then John?
Penn State's got one of the better numbers in terms of sacks and tackles for loss in the league. Obviously, you guys don't have a lot of those, especially sacks. I think you're least in sack yards allowed in the Big Ten. You talked about individual coaches' contributions, but as a play caller, as you think about things not just through the week game planning, but in the rhythm of the game, how do you, I guess, what role do you play in keeping protections maybe a little bit mixed and confusing fronts and just keeping the pocket clean?
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes into our weekly preparation, and the quarterbacks and us as a staff knowing what we're trying to accomplish. And you nailed it. We're trying to avoid those plays that push us backwards, whether it's penalties or tackles for loss or sacks. And when we can play our game and stay ahead of the chains, we're pretty good. We have a lot of plays that we can go to, when we're in that moment ahead of the chains. But I think most of it goes into the quarterback's understanding through the week. Hey, here's what we want to get into, and I know Coach Hiller and Coach Hart, they really focus throughout the course of the week in different situations on our protections and where we're vulnerable, what we need to get out of, and I can see it as I'm watching the film too. But they verify it, and maybe make sure we game plan around those bad looks. Everything doesn't have to be perfect as far as the look we're going to see. We just want to make sure we stay out of the ones that we're vulnerable in. And so mostly, it's carrying out on Saturdays what the weekly preparation was, within the game plan to stay out of these situations.
John?
Stevie's on a little bit of a roll running the ball right now. Just from earlier in the season, the way he was running to the way he's running now, is there a difference in just how he's running and then how he looks when he's running?
Yeah, I think there is. I think there's a confidence and a swagger that he's got back, and he just had to let things come to him. You look at last year and the success he had, and there was high expectations, and I think people early were certainly thinking, the key to stopping us was to focus on him. And I also think about, we lost from last year some pretty good offensive linemen, and as many as there were coming back, there were some key components to the offensive line that are playing in the NFL right now. And we've had some guys that stepped in and done an awesome job, but it just takes time. And I think in those early games, we struggled a little bit, and then we played the Ohio State game, but I felt like those weeks of practices, we were still getting better. And then it's kind of finally started to show itself here, as the season's gone along. So another huge challenge this week against Penn State because they do a great job against the run. And, I think our guys just have a different confidence and swagger about them, not just, overall, but also especially in the run game, and how we've, Northwestern, I thought, had a very good run defense, and we continue to grind it out. And, Stevie obviously spearheads a lot of that with, his ability. And I thought the first drive of the game against Northwestern, he really set the tone with some big runs, running through guys and running over guys, that gave us a lot of energy.
All right, thanks, Kalen.
Yeah, thank you guys.